Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after what I believe, and I truly believe this, is the best game, the best Winnipeg Jets 2.0 game you have ever seen played before. Now, think about this. Go back to some of the greatest contests that you've seen from the Winnipeg Jets, mostly where you will land is, maybe in that 2018 series that they played against, early in against the Vegas Golden Knights. If you remember that one, so that's a victory the Jets play in that game. Vegas isn't ready to start that series. The Jets go way up in the first 10 minutes of that series and then basically don't win the rest of the series after that. So yes, they win that game, but go back to some of the games that you've seen them play against the Nashville Predators. Even their great comeback game that they have in Game 3 of that series on home ice. Really exciting game, like a lot of action. But if you think about how they played in that game, falling down early, it's not the best example of airtight hockey that you're seeing from that team. Do they come back? Yes. Is it exciting? Yes. But it's not the example of the best game you've ever seen the Winnipeg Jets before. You may want to go to Game 7 against the Nashville Predators. That was an implosion by the Predators goaltender that starts in this game. This, to me, given the opponent in this situation, I'm going to tell you this right now, I absolutely adore the way the St. Louis Blues are playing in this series so far. They're playing great. They are throwing everything they have at the Winnipeg Jets, and the Winnipeg Jets are handling it. Why do I think it's the best game we've ever seen the Winnipeg Jets play? Well, they've got a highly capable opposition who's coming out and going after them, completely and totally going after them. And as they go after them and throw hits and try and wear the Jets down and intimidate them, the Jets go back in the opposite direction. They basically say, everything that you can throw at us, we can throw at you 5 to 10% more, right? It's the difference in this series. You talk about Scott Arniel, his 5% more, 10% more comment on this team getting better this year so that they have a different outcome in the playoffs than they did in the first round of the playoffs last year. That's exactly what we see here. The Winnipeg Jets are going out, and in everything they do, they're 5-10% better than the Blues in this. Their third periods, their ability to score when the game is at its most important. I just think defensively, the way the Jets shut this game down, it's like that third period. A lot of people are going to think that last third period was a better example of a third period because of the two shots. I don't agree, and I don't agree because I think the St. Louis Blues, I talked about it in this series, started throwing little wrinkles in, little things that they could do to get the puck more. The Jets dominated that third period in the last game because they took the puck and they started churning, and they just took the game over and took it over offensively because they just crammed the puck down St. Louis's throat. St. Louis wasn't going to let that happen tonight. So what the Jets needed to do is they needed to put up a defensive wall to just not allow the puck to get into their zone. To if St. Louis was going to get the puck, they were going to be challenged at every turn. You don't get the boards. You don't get to hold the puck along the boards and skate it around there. We won't even give you that. We won't give you an ounce of breathing space in our zone for you to start setting up and maybe get an opportunity to score and to tie this game. This is just a level of detail that is bordering on perfection. And it's interesting. One goal in this game, Ken Wiebe, I'll let him do it because he pointed out something that Scott Arniel didn't say by name, but he pointed out later he did not like the goal that the Blues scored because the Jets are in a place where they're, and Cole Perfetti said it, we'll dig into those comments, but he said they're doing what they're doing because every single play matters. And there was a play with a little bit of time left on the clock that I think the Winnipeg Jets sagged a little bit. Ken will tell you about it. That's why the puck ends up in the back of their net. Scott Arniel doesn't like it. Why? Because Scott Arniel is at the point where he's asking perfection from his team. And he is darn near getting it outside of that first goal it's pretty darn close for the rest of this game, especially the way they shut it down, especially the way they take the lead. There was nothing out there tonight. There was nothing. And the Jets found a little bit of an edge, took that edge, capitalized on it when they needed to. And here's another thing, Mark Scheifele, 2 goals in this series, neither of them going in off his stick or into the net in a way that he tried to put it in the net. Right now, I've said this all year long, another one of Rennie's gold standard evergreen takes. The hockey gods love the Winnipeg Jets, and they are showing that through what they're doing with Mark Scheifele and the goals he's scoring in this series right now. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks. Kenny, I'm going to say the only hope anyone has at this stage of looking as good as the Winnipeg Jets look in these last 2 games is by being Vittorio Rossi. Man, I'm happy. I'm lucky that we're dressed up in their duds because you better. It's like the old tuxedo night, right? Like you better. I'm telling you, go find your nicest white clothing. A T-shirt's not going to do. Get your white clothing going forward for the Winnipeg Jets because the way they look right now, you owe it to them to look your best because you got to try and match what they're doing. The only way Ken and I can do that, of course, is by heading on down to Vittorio Rossi. You could do the same thing. Walk down there. You don't have to walk down there. You can drive down there, but head on down to Corden Avenue. Walk into Vittorio Rossi. Loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, I can't say enough about this. Like I'm crowning it right now. We've done a lot of K&R shows before.
Yeah,
this is the best performance I have ever seen from the Winnipeg Jets. It is an honest performance. It is a hardworking performance. It is a gutsy performance. It is a grinding performance. There is nothing that the Winnipeg Jets showed tonight that they're not capable of in this game. There's not that. If you are the team right now, if you are Jim Montgomery and you are trying to find the weakness in this team, good luck. They're not showing it right now. What'd you see in this game, Cap?
Yeah, I would say that I think I'm going to agree with your assessment. The only game that I would even have in the conversation probably would be game 1 against Vegas, maybe in the conference final. I mean, obviously,
but Vegas didn't show up in that one. Here, you've got an insanely capable.
Sure.
The first 10 minutes of that game. I mean, Vegas is they're crabobbled. You know what I mean? This to me is a near perfect performance by the St. Louis Blues, and they've lost. And I can't imagine how frustrating that must be.
Yeah, I mean, for Jim Montgomery, the game plan has been fine. It just they've been boa constricted twice in the third period of both games, right? I mean, just absolutely had the life squeezed out of them, and high danger chances are nowhere to be found in the last 2 periods once again for the St. Louis Blues, and that's because of the willingness to defend with just incredible ferocity, and that's something that we, in terms of, again, third period 5-0, second period 4-1 at 5-on-5. All situations 14-4 high danger chances for versus against for the Winnipeg Jets in this one, and it's not from a lack of effort. The Blues are absolutely playing their ass off in this series, and the Jets have just found an additional gear that the Blues just haven't been able to answer. I mean, it's not like there's no pushback in the series. They are pushing. They're just having trouble pushing the boulder because of how strong the Jets have been defensively. It's just been incredibly impressive to watch. I didn't see the nerves that we saw in game 1 from the Jets in terms of execution, much better. by the Winnipeg Jets. Outlets are a lot better, exits way better, entries way better, backtracking, all of the things that we're seeing with a little bit more regularity here. And we talked a lot, Sean, about how we would quickly find an answer. Game one, again, I'm not saying game one was easy, but for the Winnipeg Jets, game one was the easy part. Game one has been the same in the last 3 years in a lot of ways in terms of the end result, not in terms of how it looked, Sean. It was dominant in Vegas. It was not dominant at home. It was, very good for parts, but then defensively incredibly loose. So that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing the Jets loose. Yes, the Blues created a couple things by having their defense join the rush early in the game. Connor Hellebuyck had to make a couple big saves early, but overall, the Jets' defensive structure has been something they're leaning on, and they're leaning on it for good reason, because it works. It has worked all year long, and it's working now when they're committed to it, and they've been committed to it almost every minute of this series so far. It's been an all-world performance. Now, can the Jets crank it up? Yes, they're going to have to if they want to go deep in the playoffs. Right now, 2 wins and a best of 7 series. So I know there's a lot of people feeling confident, and hey, confidence is a good thing to have after 2 games, but I don't think the Jets are going to get ahead of themselves, Sean. I mean, 2019, and yes, we know the Jets aren't dwelling on the past, but in 2019, the Blues came into Winnipeg, won 2 games, and then lost their next 2 home games. So we don't expect them to go away in this series either. And I think the Jets still have another level to reach. Now, they don't have to go a crazy amount higher, but I think that they've been absolutely, dominant when they've needed to. It's not a dominating series. It's basically 2 one-goal games and an empty netter, but the Jets have cranked it up in the third, whereas their opponent has not found an answer in the third, even though they're playing hard right until the very end, right? Don't you agree?
I agree. I'll say this. It's not only is it 2 one-goal games where they've taken over in the third, it's 2 one-goal games with which the Jets have had 2 very fortuitous bounces to end up in the back of the take away the 2 hockey god goals, and you've got a tie series here right now. Now, am I saying when I say that this series could have gone either way? I'm not. That's the thing about this, Ken. And I think that's the thing about this Jets team. Yeah, they got those bounces. And yeah, if you take away those bounces, these teams are even in goals outside of the empty net goal. That had happened there. But the thing about the Jets is they have shown time and time and time again in this series that when they need to elevate their game, they go to a place that the Blues can't go. And I loved Kyle Connor's explanation of this, because this is what I see. I said there's a couple times, Ken, and it happened right around when the Jets had the shift tonight where they scored the game winner. It was a little bit of a lazy dump by the St. Louis Blues. I think it ended up in an icing. I don't know if it's related to it, but what we're seeing here is the Jets' attention to detail is winning them these games and is providing them these opportunities that they're having. So last game, we didn't really dig into it too much, but that face-off, and Scott Arniel talked about it, the face-off that the Jets score off of is a face-off because of a play where Jordan Binnington gets the puck, and I thought a little bit casually just fired the puck around the boards. It was a turnover. Now Lowry's line goes to work, grinds them, ends up in the Blues throwing the puck down the ice, getting an icing. And now you send out Scheifele's line, a tired line. They go to work. Boom, it's in the back of the net off of a set play, off the draw. Everyone takes a look at that and they think that play starts with the faceoff. That play started 30 seconds, 40 seconds in the previous shift where that turnover happens, a careless play by Jordan Binnington in that situation. What you started to see here tonight, again, was that little bit of you know what, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to fire it down kind of mindset. Cole Perfetti talked about this after the game. You can't, every single play matters. Never mind every shift. Every play matters. The Jets play with a level of attention to detail, and the difference in this series so far is while the Blues are taking plays off, not a lot. I've said this. They're near perfect. Not a lot of plays off. The Winnipeg Jets just don't, except for one, and you can get into that on the Jets goal. We'll break that down later. You can make this part of your answer if you want to. But right now, hey, this comment was made earlier on. Helly's Kitchen says, watching that game with the comment Renny made that the Jets are now in the 2015 Ducks position in mind was very interesting. It's true. Now, first off, let's give this to Glenn Fricker, because Glenn Fricker is the guy who made the connection to the comments I made about that team, but he's absolutely 100% right. This is that thing. So how do you become that team, right? I remember I'd always argue with Jets fans who would tell me, oh, the Jets led that series against the Ducks, and, a couple things go their way and they win that series, then they roll. It's like, no, that was never happening, and it was never happening. And now you're getting an explanation of why. Because that Ducks team just had it. They had all the things that they needed to do right to generate goals, to stop the Jets from scoring when they needed them to get over the finish line in a series against a very plucky opponent. This is right. Helly's Kitchen nails this. He watched it. You should be watching this series through that lens as well. The St. Louis Blues have been right there, but they're not going to win these games because for these tiny little moments, they're just not at the very top of their game, which is the true strength of this team. I've been saying this. I've been shouting it from the rooftops all year. Is the details of this Jets team. Details mean you never slide on the details. You never, give up on doing the right thing. And that's the difference in these games. In the important moments, the Blues, I don't know if it's stamina. I don't know if it's mental acuity. I don't know what it is, but there's tiny little times in the game where they slough off a little bit. The Jets just aren't doing it. They capitalize on the moments they slough off. They turn them into icings, which they turn into face-off wins, which they turn into set plays, which they turn into putting the puck in the back of the net, or it turns into times tonight where the St. Louis Blues are taking great care to not let the Jets get the puck in behind their defense. But when they do, the Jets go to work and they take that little bit of a crack and they stick the crowbar in there. They pry the door wide open. Your Winnipeg Jets are the 2015. No, well, to be honest with you, I think they're beyond that. But they're that team now that can be comfortable in a race and know how to get over the finish line. That's exactly what we saw here on this night again, Ken.
Yeah, and I mean, I think an example of that is Snuggerud, right? I think Jimmy Snuggerud's having a great start to the series, but in the one play, Snuggerud kind of makes a weird, like his going at Scheifele to hit him. It's unlucky that it goes off his skate and in, but if he goes for the puck rather than the body, maybe that doesn't go in off his skate, right? Even though it was a great net drive. And to me, so Snuggerud's a little bit like Scheifele having to go up against Kessler and Getzlaf in that series, right, Sean? Like that's what you're talking about. You can see all the raw materials, and even Snuggerud's having a good series. He got a goal tonight. He's playing hard, but the learning part is happening now. And again, I'm not blaming Snuggerud for his play on the Scheifele goal. It's a great play by Scheifele to go wide around Nick Leddy. But Snuggerud in that scenario, I think he's got to go for the puck there rather than the body. And because he goes for the body, his skate happens to be in a position where it goes off Bennington's pad, hits Snuggerud's skate and goes in. So unfortunate for him, but yeah, I mean, the Blues are, they've got some veterans. And Sean, we were there with Braden Shen this morning. You were talking about that youth portion. And he's like, there's no young bucket and a veteran bucket. We're all in one bucket. But I think, too, Braden knows that those young guys are learning. And their learning process is happening at a warp speed. So, they're playing hard. But the Jets have gone through a lot of these learning lessons and heartaches and all of those things. I mean, the Blues haven't been in the playoffs for 2 years. They haven't played a playoff game since losing Game 6 against Colorado, the year Colorado won the Cup. So their learning is happening now, whereas the Jets have had all these heartache moments leading up to this point. And I actually kind of like Kyle Connor's answer, and I know that you did also. We don't talk about it a lot, but we're aware of it.
Yeah.
The question about not winning Game 2 since the bubble years. So, and that's the part of it we talked about after game one and going into the series. The Jets are aware of what they need to do to change the narrative. They're also not carrying this big burden around. Yes, they know they can't afford another first round exit, but they're not being, kind of bogged down by it, which is a big difference. I mean, it's not, there's belief when before it was more hope. And that's something that we're seeing here for sure. And I think that's also part of it. So that to me is part of why the Jets look like a team that is in control. Now, again, they're not done. They're not done. They're halfway done, but I don't think that Jets are acting like the series is over, even though some folks in the fan base might be thinking, well, this is a clean sweep now after 2 games. I would just say, the Jets are full value so far. Now we're going to see. I mean, what we know about Jim Montgomery, he loves the matchup game. He's going to have last change. The Jets aren't going to be scared of the matchups, but let's see how they handle not having home ice in the next game. Jets have been a great road team all year long, Sean. But, it's a different challenge playing on the road. And now now we'll see the next step in this procedure here. And I would also say, too, I mean, Hellebuck wasn't busy. You know who was busy? Binnington was busy. And he made sure that this was a 1-goal game for his team. A couple 10 bellers. His save on Mason Appleton, absolutely all world save.
Yeah. He's been the best. He's been the best goalie in this series. And done everything he's needed to keep his team in this game, which is just another example of the Jets stretching to do whatever they need to do to get their team over the line. I said it on Sportsnet Fan 590 before this game, and it was one of the reasons that I'd been asked, well, how much pressure is on Mark Scheifele in this series? How much? Oh, the Jets can't win if Connor Hellebuck doesn't get going here or doesn't find playoff Hellebuck or all this kind of stuff. And these are all just lazy tropes. They're lazy tropes because there isn't an insane amount of pressure on Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor or Connor Hellebuck because the Jets can win in so many different ways. They can win with their power play, they can win with their penalty kill, they can win with their shutdown grinded out defense, they can win with the best goalie in the world who can steal games, they can win with their offense which can pop out in games, they can win with their depth like they've showed in the past. The fact that you can win in so many different ways means that you don't have to worry about being the guy who is the only hope for you to win. And I think the Jets have just done such an amazing job of that so far. I wanted to touch on a couple things here. Two things that we've got 2 examples of the Flame and Comfort hot take. One, the good kind of hot take. The other, the bad kind of hot take. The Penner Tube says the Blues are running around for hits. This isn't true. If it was true, you'd see the Winnipeg Jets would be countering and be getting odd man rush chances because when you run around for hits, you take yourself out of where you're supposed to be, and it creates openings, creates a vacuum that the opposition team fills and heads down the ice. That's not happening. The Jets are getting no odd man rushes. No serious odd man rushes in this series so far. So the Blues, this is another thing I keep talking about. They're playing near perfect hockey. They're going out and they're playing the kind of aggressive hockey that is challenging the Winnipeg Jets without taking themselves out of the play to do so. So this is one of those hot takes that doesn't really work. This is going to lead to our next topic of conversation. Kishore says, Arniel adjusting the PK after the first goal was awesome to see. I don't necessarily think he adjusted the PK. It was a breakdown that Ken's going to explain at some point here. But this is true. After the last game, Scott Arniel had said he thought the penalty kill was too aggressive. And then Ken, I actually think, went and to Kishore's point here, actually dialed up the pressure on the penalty kill in this game. They just did it in a different way. I'll get into that, but he says they dialed up the pressure and St. Louis never got a great chance again. That's entirely true. Those are banging examples of both the good and the bad of the Flame and Comfort hot take. So dual winners of the Flame and Comfort hot take on the Kenny and Renny show here. And I would just like to say that is brought to you, of course, by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes, folks, to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. They'll take care of it for you. Ken, you get into what you thought the mistake was on that power play, on that penalty kill, and then we'll just get into what we think worked so well with the Jets' penalty kill when it wasn't allowing the one goal of the game.
Sure. I mean, Scott Arniel referenced the clear, I think. So the control was in the corner, right? I think, again, I don't want to point a finger without being 100% right, and I'm not pointing a finger anyway, but in my view, Pionk was the one who had control of the puck, right? With 15 seconds left behind the goal line and just wasn't able to clear. The one thing too, and this is an easy qualifier. The qualifier is it's easy for you and I to see from our vantage point with 4 seconds to go when the puck was rimmed around the net. I thought that maybe Josh Morrissey had a chance to be a little bit more aggressive on Pavel Buchnevich there, Sean. But also, again, we have the 3D view, and I think the one thing the Jets should have done a better job at that position is there should have been some stick banging and communication to say that the clock was winding down. I don't think that you can expect Josh Morrissey to have an internal clock in that situation, but I do think that if he had pressured him along the boards a little bit quicker, I don't think that cross ice pass to Snuggerud would have been available.
Right.
Again, this is not blame on Josh Morrissey. It's just a scenario where I think if the Jets let him know there's only 3 or 4 seconds left in the period, and it's not running around, it's that aggression that you're talking about, Sean, attacking the pressure points on the wall. That I think would have allowed the scenario to not unfold with a goal with 0.8 seconds to go. Now, great shot by Snuggerud, and Sean, what you've noticed, and we know our goalie expert in the media, our brethren, is Kelly Rudy, and I texted Kelly, and I know, Sean, you talked about this going into the series. Looks like the Blues are going high blocker on Connor Hellebuck a lot,
Yeah.
and that's what Kelly sees, and usually we defer to him when it comes to goalie scenarios. So. Anyways, I just thought that was one. Again, it's very much a nitpicky thing, and it's not a blame game thing because, again, it's easy for you and I to see from above the ice. Josh is at full speed on the ice, looking at the scenario, knowing that Buchnevich is dangerous. He can't see where the coverage is behind him, but I do think that that's one of the places on the ice where the defense group can attack a little bit more aggressively, and it's what they did over the course of the game, Sean. And the reason we said the Jets were a little bit over aggressive the other day is because they were going to go on the attack on a 2-on-1. But again, there was a subtle play. I think it was Buchnevich then too. The Blues player along the boards, once he prevented Iafallo from chipping it past Cam Fowler, then there wasn't that available. Then it turned into the 3-on-2 down low that led to the Thomas goal. Whereas here, the Jets kind of just had a little bit of a breakdown where I agree with Scott Arniel. They had almost killed that power play perfectly, and because they didn't get the clear, they did end up giving up another goal. But I thought that with the game on the line, it was impressive to see how the Jets attacked the pressure points and didn't really allow anything for the remainder of the game on the power play, and that's a sign of a big adjustment because let's face it, the Blues were 3 of their first 4 on the penalty kill. And if you were killing at a 20%, 25% rate, it's not going to go well for a team if you can't get things sorted out. And that's what they were able to do in this one. And it's an impressive job overall. And, some of that is, the addition of Shen. I thought Dylan Sandberg was outstanding in the game. We know he had a goal-saving play on the power play. I thought this was his, it's the best playoff game we've seen Dylan Sandberg play. There were no signs of jitters from him in this game or nerves. He was outstanding in terms of killing plays all over the ice at the defensive blue line. His ability to, you've talked about, we don't give defensemen as much credit as we should for hockey IQ and intelligence. And his anticipation in this game was at an all-world level. And that's one of the reasons why Dylan Sandberg played 24-30 in this game, had 31 shifts, 2 hits, 4 shot attempts, 2 shots on goal, 4 shot attempts, 2 hits, and 2 block shots. He was all over the place in this game, and it was an impressive showing from him. And I'll turn it over to you, and then I have a reverse Pristine Roofing wake up call to go to.
Oh, okay. We
First
can do
ever
that.
reverse.
I'm just going to say, so I think you're right. I think that is an error on Josh Morrissey in that situation there. And here I'll tell you why, because this is the adjustment that the Winnipeg Jets made that I keep talking about how, they said that their power play was too aggressive last game, and that in this game now, I said somehow I feel like they actually got more aggressive, but just aggressive in the right way. So last game, you nailed it. They were trying to pressure up top along the blue line, right? And in that situation, you were right. Lowry thought he was going to chip it, maybe get a 2-on-1, maybe get a breakaway, except the player at the point chips it past him. And now they've got numbers down low with 2 Jets trying to fly the zone. That's the aggression that Scott Arniel was talking about, being too aggressive. So if you notice what the Winnipeg Jets did on this night, they didn't pressure the defenseman on the top. They didn't give him a lot of room. They forced him to stay patrolling along the top of the line, moving from side to side. But what the Jets did was they really attacked the players on the boards, right? So what they tried to do is, as the Blues were trying to set up, usually, and you see it with the Winnipeg Jets, when the Winnipeg Jets set up their power play, think about where Kyle Connor is, think about where Mark Scheifele is. They get the puck and they've got all kinds of time. And they try and move it down lower, they move it up top. But most power plays allow you to exist along the boards with the mindset that, listen, if it's out there, it's probably not going to hurt us. The problem is really good teams, often like the Jets power play, are able to, start moving the chess pieces around and set things up. Hasn't really, been a huge issue for the Blues so far in this series. But what the Jets have decided is they're not going to allow the St. Louis Blues to set up anywhere. The only place they're going to allow them to hold on to the puck is on the very top, like I'd said, with that defender who last game they were trying to pressure. This game they left them alone, but now think of those guys in the Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele spot on the hash marks on the boards. The Jets went after them tonight. They were going after them on the boards. They didn't get to have the puck there. They were trying to keep them to their backhand so that there were no passes to be made. And the aggression of it was beyond anything I've seen from the Winnipeg Jets penalty kill so far this year. So to that end, Ken, I do think it was a mistake by Josh Morrissey, because he's soft playing. He's like, well, you know what? There's not a lot of time left on the clock. This guy's got it on the boards. Let's just leave it at that. The urgency with which the Jets had been playing on the power play broke down in that moment, and that's why the Jets well, here's the problem with that, Ken. When you're playing a system that is reliant on aggression, when one person doesn't pull off that aggression, everyone else on the ice is in a spot to try and capitalize on that aggression. When that aggression doesn't come and the opposition has too much time, the people who are in the spot to capitalize on that aggression are now actually in a bad spot and vulnerable when it comes to passing and moving the puck around. So, I mean, hey, maybe this is the first we could have for the Winnipeg Jets in talking about, like Josh Morrissey being the guy who made the big mistake on this night. But I do think you nailed it, and I do think that that's what we saw from the Winnipeg Jets on this night. Speaking of first, I want to go in this direction first. You can do your reverse Pristine Roofing after. We are changing the segment. Colby Spence, one of the viewers of the show, had suggested this after the game. It's got to be, it's time to dust it off. It's the Say Something Nice About Logan Stanley section of this show. We've had a couple of them. We haven't put a name to it before, Ken, but I'll tell you this, and there's still some people in there loudly hating on Logan Stanley. The one thing I've always thought is crazy about this is, as the Winnipeg Jets went on to win a President's Trophy, there's a whole host of people who were just like, on the Logan Stanley thing over and over and over again. I guess sometimes you need something to beat up on or whatever it is. But the thing that I always thought was a little bit odd about it is like Scott Arniel seemed to know what he was doing for the majority of the season. They seemed to figure it out on the penalty kill, on the power play, on the lines he put together that were being criticized at the beginning of the year, on moving Sandberg into that spot, on how he put together his lines up and down, on how they handled Cole Perfetti. Like, I don't know how many examples of being right a guy like Scott Arniel could have had. And I just thought it was interesting that a guy who is doing so many things right, fans would look at and think was clueless when it came to his usage of Logan Stanley. My thing on this was they're trying to get Logan Stanley to a place where if he can be that guy, and I said it, it's his size and his ability to potentially use that size was why they kept him in the lineup. And on this night, Logan Stanley showed what it was that the Winnipeg Jets coaching staff have seen in his ability, pulled it out tonight, was a major difference maker. And in the meantime, even though they lived with the warts and the bumps and bruises that he had, were able to have those bumps and bruises on display and still win the President's Trophy. So what do you take away from Logan Stanley's game here tonight and the patience and the faith that the Winnipeg Jets coach had in this player to have the kind of impact he had in this series?
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, if Logan played like he did tonight in every game, we wouldn't have had the conversation to begin with, right? I mean, this is the type of potential he's had to have a physical impact on games. It just doesn't happen as consistently as either the coaching staff or the fan base maybe would like it. And hey, let's not kid ourselves. It's tough and taxing to play that type of physical game all the time. But that hit that he had on Jordan Kyrou is probably the biggest hit he's thrown. There have been some other ones. Yeah, we get it. But everything about it, Sean, the timing of it, also too, that's, Jim Montgomery's trying to get Jordan Kyrou out against the third pairing. That's how he was coaching in that game. And not only did Logan have the biggest hit of the game, it also, the reason why I'm calling it a reverse wake-up call is that because it knocked Jordan Kyrou right out of the game, basically. Now, I give Kyrou an incredible amount of credit for getting up after that hit, which was bone jarring and glass rattling at the same time. But he was the guy that was the most impact. Robert Thomas has been great in this series. Don't get me wrong. The most dangerous offensive player in terms of scoring chances in game one was Kyrou. And after that hit by Stanley, Sean, we barely noticed Kyrou. Kyrou had 2 shots in 5 attempts, but he also had 2 giveaways, and he seemed to drift a little bit more to the perimeter in this one. He was not in the hard areas as often as we had seen him. And again, I'm not blaming him. He got rocked, but that's what you have to do against skilled players, right? I mean, that's what every team wants to do to the opposition's most skilled forwards. And for me, that's why, it's a wake-up call, not in the way that Logan Stanley needed to wake up, but in terms of the impact and the magnitude of the hit that he made. He basically did the opposite of Jordan Kyrou. He did the opposite of waking up Kyrou. He took him out of the game. Yeah, he basically took him out of the game, and that's why I'm going with that as the reverse wake-up call. We'll have to see if North End Rick will allow it, but we're going to allow it.
We're not going to allow North End Rick to go to sleep on this one. So you get out there and give him the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. Rick's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake-up call. You will be happy that you did. Listen, I see there's a lot of people who are, saying this is one game and this is, I get it. People love to stick with their narratives. They love to be right. They love to, say, no, what's it? It's the Simpsons quote where Mr. Skinner says, is it me that's wrong? No, it's the children, right? This is what this reminds me of. It's Scott Arniel. He's wrong about this. And this is the problem. Like, if you can't see how that worked out and what they've planned with Logan Stanley, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how much more obvious it could be. Guess what? Ville Heinola can't do tonight what Logan Stanley did, okay? Ville Heinola at his best is going to be a version, a much, much lesser version of Josh Morrissey, or maybe Neil Pionk, but without the edge and without that fight and that spit that he's got going on there. Like, the Jets are trying to put together a defense core that is able to handle the playoffs and able to do different things. So you've got Josh Morrissey, who can do everything. You've got Neil Pionk, who's a little like Josh Morrissey and has that offensive little bit and that, anger to him. You've got Dylan DeMello, who's just handling everything super, super calmly like he did tonight. You've got Dylan Samberg, who I just thought was out of his mind great tonight, able to throw a couple of hits there, able to absorb all the hits. His stick was great on this night. Ken, I think he had an example of the Johnson Group got you covered play. Now you bring in Luke Schenn, who's the guy who blocks all those shots and punishes people. And now Logan Stanley's doing the same thing. I contend, Ken, never mind a reverse Pristine Roofing wake-up call. I think that's it for Jordan Kyrou in this series. You had said it. Jordan Kyrou was the best St. Louis Blue in the first game of this series, and I think it's done for him now. I think he took that kind of hit, and I think now we'll see. And if he does bounce back from this, all of the credit to him. But he seemed tentative to me, Ken, and he seemed like he wasn't overly interested in mixing it up. Logan Stanley pulled that off. So this is what the coaching staff sees. If you refuse to see it, or you don't want to see it because you want to be right and you want to say that Logan Stanley is the worst thing that's ever happened and it's terrible and these coaches don't know what they're doing and no one has a clue how to put together a roster or use a guy in a certain way, lean into that. But this is what the Winnipeg Jets saw, the impact that he had on this game tonight. Ken, a whole bunch of times now, he's jumping routes when the St. Louis Blues try and do the rim around. He's picked that up from Josh Morrissey and players like that where he kills plays, and he can do it because he's got that long stick. These things matter. You're taking, every time you take possession away against a team like the Blues, it just tilts the scales a little more in your favor. It's a little bit more of the every play matters mantra. Logan Stanley is finding ways to make plays in the game that tilt the scale in the favor of the Winnipeg Jets. And here's the last thing I'm going to say on this before we move on from it. But I honestly think we've talked down the stretch. It was a couple of games ago. I know someone here is saying one game that he's pulled off. I sent you a text and said like Logan Stanley was having a baller of a game not too long ago. We've talked for a while. Does he still make his errors here and there? Yes, he does. But I think his body of work has been tilting way more in favor of the Jets than it has been tilting back in favor of the Jets. And I don't think for a second, Ken, that having a guy like Luke Schenn walk in, and I don't know if you heard the way that Luke Schenn talked about Logan Stanley here tonight. You were there. But Luke Schenn sees something. Luke Schenn has been there. He's been the guy that things weren't necessarily working out for. The big guy who was supposed to be something, had a hard time getting there. There's not a better person for Logan Stanley to have around to take his game to the next level, to be the kind of player who can affect the outcome of a game the way that he did tonight than Luke Schenn. I think that this is something that you can expect going forward. So here's the deal. Let's just bring it down to this. I know there's a ton of doubters out there. I see you. I see your comments. I see how angry you get about Logan Stanley night after night in this show. I'm saying it right now. Logan Stanley, in his opportunity to learn from a guy like Luke Schenn, is trending into the kind of player that other teams are going to hate playing against, and that can be a very useful tool for the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs.
And just quickly, sorry, I just want to tie a bow on this, Sean. What did we hear every single person say about Logan Stanley after they credited him for the hit? Kyle Connor, Luke Schenn, Dylan DeMello, all three guys went out of their way to talk about how he moved the puck efficiently in this game also, right? It wasn't just that big jarring hit, right? They know this is a guy who hasn't had a linear path to excellence, right? So I think that's something where, he's a guy that is popular, incredibly hard worker. And yeah, have there been some tough points? Have there been times when he needed to play better? Absolutely. But this is one of the best games that he's played. And people have noticed. His teammates have noticed, and the coaching staff saw a glimpse of what they need to see going forward. And as you mentioned, Sean, I mean, Luke Shen also knows a thing or two, not just about throwing the body around, but a little bit about dealing with adversity and, not having a linear path as a first round draft pick who thought it was just going to be easy, right? For those who've forgotten, Luke Shen had to go down to the minors to reestablish his game. And guess what? He's showing people right now that he's still a pretty damn effective player. And he's going to be a really impressive mentor for a guy who hasn't, he's still working to establish himself as a full-time player.
I got to say, Ken, the Renny
and Gene,
villain,
nice to see you here.
The Renny villain in me loves how angry it makes some people to talk nicely about a player that they just wish would go.
Me and Gene, the hot air machine, Okerlund.
I'll say this too, Matt Hyman. If you don't get it by now, I don't know what to say to you. He says Renny, he played less than 2 minutes in the third period. Like, yeah, I don't know where anyone has said here that he's like the ultimate shutdown defenseman. The whole point of this, Matt Hyman, he made his presence felt in the game before this, and in a very different way than them setting him out as a shutdown defenseman. They've got a lot of guys to do that. They had him go out and do the thing tonight that made a difference in this game. I don't, if you can't see that, I don't know, maybe come on over to Rennie's place in the hot tub. I'll put it in an outdoor television, and we'll break down the plays to explain it to you if that's what's needed in this
Before
case.
we change gears, I know you talked about the physical nature of the other players. I thought that the hit by Morrissey on Sundqvist, absolutely excellent read, absolutely great play. And again, we know Josh is a guy who's feisty, but he's a guy that's also the most skilled player on the back end and is a driver. So I thought that I loved a lot of Morrissey's game today. I thought he was pretty impactful on a lot of fronts. 2 shots, 6 attempts, 1 hit. And yeah, I thought that Morrissey again in this game was really, really noticeable in a lot of great ways in the course of the game. And just a quick shout out, Kishore is here. I ran into him on his way into the rink, Sean. Great to see him. He had some great things to say about the show, and I love it when people come up to us and talk about the community we've been building. And it's awesome to see people coming in from all over the planet to get their first taste of the whiteout and things of that nature. And I'm guessing Kishore had a great time at the game here this evening, and it was great to see him.
I love that. I also love it when people do my job for me, and BA Split doing it here. He says 91 is playing lights out. Dog on a bone along the boards, gets the puck and does good things. Putting him on the top line for one shift. Paid off.
One shift. Oh, good one.
Paid off. I love it. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, give a shout out to Lou while we're doing this.
For sure. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent supporter of the community, and I missed one in the middle there. Excellent human being as well, and a great supporter of this podcast, for which we're very grateful.
People all know about Sweet Lou.
And sorry, I'm going to jump on this here too, just to talk about Perfetti here. Not only does he set up the GWG, Cole Perfetti's everywhere in this game. What a difference a year makes. You go from a healthy scratch for the first 4 games of the playoffs to being the next man up on the power hour shifts. Power hour meaning after a Jets penalty kill, they send over Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, and there's Cole Perfetti with them because Alex Iafallo is taking at least one spin with the forward group on the penalty kill, and sometimes a second, right? So they get that line out there for more than 2 shifts. And I would just a minor quibble would be that I think Iafallo had already changed on that goal before the winner was scored. But anyways, his point is still valid that he got out there together with them a few times. And, we're going to talk a little bit more about that goal in a minute, Sean. Sorry to give it all away here, but Perfetti's game is, I love how tenacious he's playing. And the fact that he's doing it in the hard games is what's impressive. One shot, 3 shot attempts, 1 hit, another blocked shot. Just impressive stuff from Cole Perfetti. The fact that he's being leaned on for 16:43 in a game. I know there was a time this year when folks are like, oh my gosh, how is he only playing 12 minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes, almost 17 minutes in a game where there was not a lot of space? Cole Perfetti was finding space out there, and he's finding space because of how hard he's working and how tenacious his game has evolved into. And it's incredibly impressive to see. And again, I know a lot of folks didn't like it last year. I know Cole didn't like it last year, and I get it. He didn't like it because he's a competitive person. But everything that Cole went through last year is part of what brings him to this year. And again, it's easier to see that with the benefit of, 2020 vision, but also the way that he handled himself under duress and adversity tells you a lot about Cole Perfetti, the person and the player.
You know what? I just realized here, Tishu reminded me of something. Ken likes to talk about in case of emergency break glass situations. I have forgot my headband upstairs and haven't wanted to run upstairs and grab it the last little while. Tishu reminded me I've got one sitting right behind me in the old Mullet Arena.
Oh, yes.
It's got a headband on it. Break the glass, people. It's time to turn this into a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Tishu is the Mark Scheifele of this podcast, saving the day right when it means the most. We have to kind of recap what he's done so far in this series. Ken, I'll say it like this, and then I'll let you get going. I thought there was a little bit of a dip in Mark Scheifele's game after the Four Nations. I think the disappointment of missing out on that may have affected him, or maybe just the motivation that was there for him to try and make that team may have dipped a little bit here. But I think what I'm seeing now is a Mark Scheifele that at that time when he was trying to make that team took his game to a place. I don't know, when you talk about the combination of his defense and his offense, took his game to a place we'd never seen him take it before. And I want to be very careful to say this. I thought 2018 playoffs Mark Scheifele was a standard that could almost not be met again by a player like that. But at the end of the game they played tonight, I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the evening, but Mark Scheifele was leading the NHL playoffs in scoring with 5 points. He has been everything you could hope from your star number one line center in this series. What are you seeing from him, and why is Mark Scheifele having the success he's having?
Incredible efforts from Scheifele so far. And, we know how hard Mark works, and we know that no one was more disappointed than him with the way that the last several playoffs have gone. And Sean, quite frankly, back to 2018, to be honest, the combination of, things not going his way, suspensions, injuries, and there's a block of time where he's still a point a game player, but he's not having this type of impact on games. And Mark's the kind of guy that, Sean, you talked about the 2015 Ducks series. Mark came into the league saying, I want to go up against Jonathan Toews, against Ryan Getzlaf, and not just succeed or get by, but flourish. And now he's flourishing in these roles, right? Robert Thomas is the hottest player in the NHL after the Four Nations faceoff. And Robert Thomas is playing great, but he's not producing at Mark Scheifele's level right now, because Mark Scheifele has gone 2018 elite level hockey right now, and he's improved his defensive game. So to me, and we talked about this before the series, Sean, I know we didn't do the full-on preview, but the Jets need Mark Scheifele to be the best skater in this series. And to this point, he has been that. Yes, Kyle Connor has produced offensively as well, but Mark Scheifele's been the best player in the series. There's no argument. There's no argument to be made on either side Thomas is playing great, but nobody's producing and playing two-way hockey the way Mark Scheifele is. And as we said this before, if the Jets want to go on the magic carpet, they need Mark Scheifele to do this for 4 rounds. Right now, he's done it for 2 games, and I don't see Mark Scheifele tiring. I see him engaged physically, emotionally. And Sean, what else did we see from Mark Scheifele? After his goal, he was jarring verbally with Braden Shen on the bench, which, you know, you can applaud the thought, but also keep your head up when Braden Shen is on the ice, because he's trying to run everything that moves. So that would be the only advice. And I'm not here to give Mark Scheifele advice on what to be doing. And I think it's great for him to be engaged emotionally and verbally. But again, he's found a level that is incredibly impressive. And yes, as Scott Arniel referenced, Mark Scheifele had a great year. There was the one dip when he was hurt, then he didn't get named for 4 Nations. And I agree. I think that his game dipped again a little bit. Now, again, his level of dipping is way different than someone else. There were no lengthy droughts, but he just wasn't playing at an elite level for a 2 small blocks of time. Having said that, he still got to 87 points, and his two-way game is better than it has ever been. So I think he's been great in this series. He's generating plenty, Sean, and I'll attack it in the lamplighter, but he's playing 3D chess out there. The play that he makes on Cam Fowler to get the puck to Cole Perfetti is absolutely elite level stuff. Like I'm talking 1 percentile, 99th percentile, 1 percentile in the NHL can make that play, get inside position and inertia, and get the puck over to Perfetti, who finds Cole or Kyle Connor for the second game winner in as many games.
This is just, I go back to what we've been saying for the entirety of this show. And it's a funny joke. I like to say it. It's funny when I said it a couple times to the folks in Toronto. I don't know if they'd seen it on the show or not, but they got a kick out of it. The idea that, when I said that Mark Scheifele was going to be on Canada's 4 Nations team, that in the end I wasn't wrong. Team Canada was wrong. And this is just more evidence of that. Mark Scheifele, I said in my Sportsnet hit, has gone supernova right now. I mean, he is just absolutely white hot. You're right. That play that he makes off the boards. I mean, and people think, okay, well, he angled the shot, but it's the fact that what he does with a guy all over him, like the game time goal last game, where he gets the puck to Alex Scheifele with 2 guys on him and spins and makes that just amazing move to get him the puck. It's the fact that what he does in that situation is he angles the puck off the boards with a guy on him. The way that you're talking about Cam Fowler, who's an elite defenseman, who you want to know one of the reasons the Blues have done what they've done and been so good since the 4 Nations are around there, is Cam Fowler is a huge reason for that. They picked up Cam Fowler and he's helped turn that team around. Great player. Mark Scheifele gets the body positioning on him, sucks him in going to the wrong side, just ricochets that puck, not ricochets, but angles that puck off the boards, getting it to Cole Perfetti in a way that it gets to him in a spot faster to make him more dangerous, faster. And now 2 defenders in front of the net who are just thinking, like, Ken, this is what's so amazing about that play, is 2 defenders in front of the net think there's absolutely no danger in that it's a contested puck between Cam Fowler and Mark Scheifele. And now, like that, they're needing to defend a play in front of the net and realizing in that moment they don't have the angles down and no one's looking for where Kyle Connor is, because there was no threat to score until a second ago. Mark Scheifele is the one who takes that from a nothing play and makes it a threat to score in a heartbeat. And this is the deal. I've always said this before, and I remember this is another one. Hey, you know who you are out there. A lot of people wanted the Jets to move on from Mark Scheifele. I don't know if you're the same people, but way back in the day, I'm talking pre-2014 because I was still working at CBC. And hey, Renny was giving his takes, and it's not that people care about them that much now. They cared about them a lot less back then, though. And I remember there was a lot of people back then who were always calling for the Jets to move Dustin Byfuglien. I know half of you who did it or more won't admit to doing it, but there were loud calls for the Jets to move on from Dustin Byfuglien back in the 2011, 12, 13 era of time. And I remembered saying about Dustin Byfuglien, elite players have the ability to make something out of nothing. That's what makes them elite. They can take a nothing burger play and like that turn it into something dangerous. Dustin Byfuglien used to be able to do that, never mind, like, and he could do it offensively, never mind everything else that came with it. But Mark Scheifele, in very kind of, especially behind the net, workman-like areas, can take pucks in spots like that seem like nothing, like the Iafallo setup, like the puck to Perfetti tonight, can take nothing plays and make them lethal in a fraction of a second. And it is two of the reasons right now, probably the two defining reasons of this series, that the Winnipeg Jets are up in this. I still think the Winnipeg Jets would find a way, the way that they play, the way they shut down the St. Louis Blues, to have won these two games. But like, if you want the biggest difference right now, if you took Mark Scheifele and put him on the St. Louis Blues, I'm willing to bet, as good as the Jets have played, the St. Louis Blues would be up 2-0 in the series right now.
Yeah, and just before we switch gears to the awards, John Chan asks, any thoughts and concerns on the Jets' lack of secondary scoring? John, the Jets have scored 7 goals in the series. 3 of them are from Adam Lowry, Alex Iafallo, and Jared Anderson-Dolan. So, yes, their top line has been great, but Iafallo is a guy who spent most of the year playing on the fourth line. Yes, he's on the top line, but he's not a primary scorer. He is a secondary scorer. So 3 out of 7 goals coming from secondary scoring, I don't see that as a concern. And the fact that the guys who had 41 and 39 goals having 4 out of 7, I don't see that as a disproportionate amount of production through 2 games of this series. Sean, do you?
Sorry, ask me the question again.
The fact that Connor and Scheifele have 4 of the 7 goals and the 3 others are from Iafallo, Anderson-Dolan, and Lowry. One's an empty netter.
One's an empty netter.
Yes, the second line hasn't scored, but
one is set up by Mark Scheifele. Like,
sure, but Cole Perfetti also set up the primary assist on the goal today. So
agreed. So to me, I'm not concerned with it. The reason that I'm not concerned with it is, in a series like this, when you're winning games 2-1, you don't need that. And I go back to this again. The Winnipeg Jets can win games numerous different ways. At some point, if they're going to need that. But I've stopped taking a look at the Jets and thinking, oh, this isn't working right now, it's never going to get going again. No, because the Winnipeg Jets have an uncanny ability to, like, I don't think that Connor Hellebuyck has really started in the playoffs yet. Like, the Connor Hellebuyck that you're wanting to see, who is absolutely shutting down the opposition. And I know he only allowed 1 goal here tonight. I don't think, again, for that he was challenged towards the end of that game. But we're not looking at Connor Hellebuyck and saying he's stealing things. He doesn't need to. But I think that if the Winnipeg Jets keep pushing the can down the road here with this, you're going to see that version of him, because that's what this team does. At some point, you're going to get the kind of goal that you need from Nino Niederreiter. At some point, you're going to get Vladislav Nemestikov is going to chip in. And what you're seeing right now from the top line is just not being stopped. So I would agree that I personally think, Ken, you're stretching it with the Iafallo and Lowry and Anderson-Dolan. I think that they've had one goal outside of the top line. That's the fourth line, the Jared Anderson-Dolan goal. And then Cole Perfetti gets onto the top line. Alex Iafallo's on the top line. And the other one is an empty net goal, which is actually another one of those fortuitous bounces that the Jets got in this series that Mason Appleton was talking about. So, but I'm just saying, it's not something I have concerns with. I think the Jets are going to be just fine regardless.
Yeah. And lastly, John, to your point, if Mason Appleton doesn't have a chance that is a 10-bell save by Binnington, then you might be more concerned. But I think what he's getting at is the second line's got to produce more, and that's fair. Over the course of time, yes, they will. But again, like I said, I don't think it's a crazy disproportionate amount or disproportionate amount of goals coming from Scheifele and Connor. I mean, those guys had 80 goals between them. So the fact that they have 4 to 7, they can't rely on them to keep a 4 to 7 pace for 4 rounds if they happen to get that far. But hey, everyone needs secondary scoring, but I also think that 1 fourth line goal through 2 games is plenty, right? You're not going to get a fourth line goal every game in terms of secondary scoring.
For sure. And to be honest,
and that line was good again today. The line was good again.
This is the one thing I always think. It's like, and I know people, you're a fan of a team, so you get really self-involved with that team. Like, think about the other side of this, about the way that they're shutting down the St. Louis Blues and the way that they're scoring, right? Like, that's what they're doing to win games right now. The second line is going out and they're doing that. The third line, the fourth line, they're going and doing their jobs so that they're winning their matchups, or at least tying those matchups, so that they don't have to be the team that goes. There's so many different ways to win games. I just think it's one of these things where it's I don't know, like going and worrying about the like St. Louis Blues fans have a little bit more to worry about right now than their second line or whoever not generating as much as they'd like to. They need to find ways to stop the Jets from being brilliant in the big moments and get anyone scoring on that outside of their power play. Anyways, we should get to the awards. Johnston Group got you covered. Play of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, for me, I know Scheifele made a nice play also, but to me, it's the Dylan Samberg sweeping the puck off the crease on that Blues power play. Yes, they did score on that same power play a little while later in the shift, but to me, that was another great example of all-world type of play there by Samberg. I think it would have been wasn't the chance for Sundqvist on the back door, or it might have been on the other side, but either way, Dylan Samberg's play is my choice for Got You Covered.
Got you covered for me is T. Will just always finding the effort to try and put words in my mouth and reflect something that is not even close to what I said, but that's definitely his MO. His MO. Everything he does is I guess dislocate his shoulder in an attempt to reach and take whatever I say out of context. It's fun. It's been fun for a lot of years. It continues to be fun. Anyways, those are the Johnston Group.
I look forward to your talk with him at the year-ender.
Yeah. So me too. I'd love to hear the stories that he tells afterwards about his take on what we said in those conversations. That's the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game. Brought to you by our friends at the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs. Of course, they are the Kenny and Renny OGs. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. I would also like to just bring this to attention quickly. Winnipeg Gabe Vivaldi is saying, same with me, Sean, I emailed you. Folks, I've got all of your submissions for the awards that have been won. It's just coming out of the whole Ovi chase thing. I'm burning the candle at both ends on a million different things. I talked to Ada, who's a camera person at the arena, who also won one of the awards. Twice now I've told her, I've got you. I remember you. All you folks out there who've won awards, I've got your emails. I'm swamped right now. I'm going to get you your stuff. Don't worry about it. Just
thanks for your patience
with me for just a little bit, if you could. Okay, TCB lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, it's the Kyle Connor's second game winner in as many games. Sean, for all the reasons we've described at various points in the game. Outstanding play by Scheifele to get inside position on Cam Fowler. Great pass by Perfetti. And again, in a game where Kyle Connor had been relatively quiet compared to the first game when he had 5 shots and 11 shot attempts, he showed once again he doesn't need a ton of grade A's to find the back of the net with regularity. So impressive play all around. That's my choice for the lamplighter.
Just because of the Mark Scheifele thing, that pass is, like you'd said, you did a good job of summing it up. Insane that play. Like you said, there's like a not top 1% of people in the world. The top 1% of the top 1% are maybe on their best day capable of pulling off something like that. So that's my TCB and Ken's TCB lamplighter of the game. Tell us what you think, though. Share with us your lamplighter, your best goal of the game, and you are automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of lamplighter amber ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack, you can head on down to 1290 Kenniston Avenue, 1290 Kenniston. Join them in their tap room and maybe try some of their beers on tap when you're down there, and some of their great food. You will notice it is just the kind of ambiance you just don't want to leave. Ken, like, we get down there, I have a hard time leaving when I'm there. I don't know.
It's true.
Look at this dump compared to that place, right? I can't get enough. Can't get enough of the place. That brings us to our winner of the Lampy, and for the last show, that would be at PG 5248. At PG 5248, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email, and I will have the fine folks, I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of lamplighter amber ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You're about to find out, PG 5248. It's the nectar of the gods. And that brings us to our keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I know folks want one of the Hellebuck saves early in the game, and those were good saves and important saves, but best save of the game was made by Jordan Binnington. I understand that some folks won't like the choice, but honestly, the play that Vladislav Nemestikov makes to shimmy and shake his way past the defender and then get the puck across to Mason Appleton. And again, it's not like Appleton made a bad shot. It was a great shot. Binnington made a ridiculous save, and it was the most impressive save of the game because it was highlight reel, and that's my choice.
Yeah, if people are being honest with themselves, they'd see it too. There's probably the three best saves in this series have all been done by Jordan Binnington from games 1 and 2. But sometimes people struggle being honest with themselves. But it doesn't matter if you're being honest with yourself. You don't even need to be honest with Kenny or with Renny. You can just share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game, even if you're not being honest with yourself. And when you do that, you will be entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 Fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show, that would be Brendan Wilson 7773. Brendan, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email, and I will send you a $50, or I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 Fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And hey, I'll say this.
Speaking of the keg.
Yes, we sent the Hockey Night in Canada crew down to the downtown keg, and they went there, absolutely loved it, had a great time. John Garrett, who is a big food aficionado, I told him he loves his ketchup. I said I had them send an extra bottle of ketchup to your table, John. John's been raving about it. Really enjoyed the experience down there, and why would he not? The one thing I did tell them, did you like that location? Because the next location, it's even finer than that one. And the next location after that, even finer than that one. And the location you went to is finer than both those previous locations I was just talking about. They didn't know how it made sense. All they knew is they had a great time at the keg. And why wouldn't you? If you've been to the keg before, you know what a great place it is. Ken, we're going to have to make it down there in a little bit here because it's been far too long since you, myself,
we'll see how long
Laura,
the series goes.
Yeah, exactly. You, myself, Laura, and Stacey had a great time there. I'd like to do that again. It would be a lot of fun. Ken, you got something to say?
One thing before you wrap, thinking of our pal Marshall and his wife Elena. Elena lost her mom Margarita to cancer today, but she was able to get back to Winnipeg to say her goodbyes. But obviously thinking of them today, and we know Marshall was in the chat here this evening, but thinking of you guys, sending our best wishes to the family in a tough time.
Yeah, I'm hearing that live for the first time on the show here. Sorry to hear that, Marshall, and family. That's a tough one. Folks, that's it for us. Game 2. Next time we're going to be doing this, we'll be down in St. Louis, where I called ahead, Ken, to the Blues City Deli to grease the wheels for the crew that I'd be bringing on down there. They're excited to have us come down there. They got some good specials going on. And I'm also excited to announce this is a case where Renny is going to lose the battle, but he may just win the war. Every time I go down there, because years ago they had the meatball sandwich on, and it was the best meatball sandwich I've ever had before. And they took it off the menu. Every time I go there, I harass them to get it on the menu. I tried to get them to put it on the menu this upcoming weekend so you could try it out, Ken, and so I could get back to eating my meatball sandwich down there. They're not able to do it. However, my pestering has had them work on a few workarounds, is how they told it to me, because it's apparently a very labor intensive process, and it sounds like the meatball sandwich is going back on the menu. We know we're going to end up in St. Louis at some point. So again, Renny losing the battle here, but in the end, Renny's going to win the war. Hey, if you want to help us win the war in keeping KNR on the airwaves, we would appreciate it if you would appreciate our sponsors, folks, and make sure you get out and support our sponsors, because they fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Flame and Comfort, Sweet Lou Ferlin, the Johnson Group, Trans-Canada Brewing Company, and of course the keg that the Hockey Night in Canada crew went to and had an absolute blast of a time. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you for being here. We will chat with you again after a next big game, Game 3, down in St. Louis between the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. Talk to you then, folks. Bye-bye.